Pluribus episode 1 and 2. You guys, we're so back on Apple TV. I have a new favorite show and it is called Pluribus.
Say Raban!
Raban! Thank you to everyone who told me that I should be reviewing this show. I got right on it. I had a long flight. I had a couple hours to kill. And you best believe I devoured these first 2 episodes of Pluribus. I am hooked in. This is one of the very few shows that I am just hooked in right off the bat. It's kind of like Dark. So today I'll be discussing episodes 1 and 2, explaining from my perspective what is going on and some observations I had along the way. So if you're new around here, very nice to meet you. Please like this video, subscribe to my channel, and comment below with what you thought of Pluribus episodes 1 and 2. The first episode starts and I really don't know what's going on. Until the things start happening, I don't know what's happening. We're kind of bouncing between different characters, different situations, and at first I was like, what is the tone? What's going on? Should I be scared? Should I be laughing? And I really like that sense of discombobulation that I felt entering the world. We begin with a countdown. It looks like there's over a year left in this countdown, about 14 months. We begin with a couple of nerds meeting up to observe something weird in the sky. Those 2 nerds turn into 6 nerds, turn into 12 nerds. There's a very weird broadcast being sent from deep space that occupies a very unusual pattern. Now, right away, this gave me 3 body problem vibes. That the sequence that is being broadcast from space. Now, listen, guys, I'm no scientist, but apparently it's some RNA gene sequencing that they could kind of observe and synthesize eventually in the lab. So I guess scientists were like, you know what? We just received this signal. Let's just see what happens and start testing it on rats. And this gave me the same notion of when you just download something random onto your computer, open it up, and just hope for the best. It could be the video that you illegally downloaded, and it could be malware that is going to steal your identity and ruin your life. There's really no way of knowing. Then we move on to a reading, an author reading her dark romance novel, her smut, very Throne of Glass, Rose of Court and Thorns, or whatever you call. Now, guys, I am a book editor on the side, and I have a international best-selling author client who writes this kind of material. So I laugh so much at just some of the language used, the fans, the guy with the sword coming through who then goes and mansplains the weaponry choices she made. All right, so this woman, Carol, who's the author, seems really miserable, very miserable, even despite her seeming success from this book launch. She has either a girlfriend or a wife named Helen who seems to be a great kind of yin to her yang, and still she seems very, very, very depressed. They go from Texas to Albuquerque. Remember, this is created by the creator of Breaking Bad. Even the main actress was starring in Better Call Saul. So there is that kind of Breaking Bad desert vibe, a nice homage to Vince Gilligan's other work without being over the top, on the nose, and Easter eggy. As they're moving through the airport, I noticed that they went and moved all of her books from the bottom shelf to the top and replaced with freaking the Outlander series. Like, how dare you? Diana Gabaldon, don't do her like that. That book series is so much better than whatever this is. We then switch to kind of our third main scene for the beginning. It's a US military research facility for infectious diseases. This is kind of where they've been synthesizing and injecting the rats with this strange RNA alien sequence. A rat pretends to be dead and instead bites the hand of a worker there called Jen. That scene with her just starting to pulse and seize was so creepy. She then walks out with this weird derpy little facial expression on, giving the military guy a kiss. It very much reminded me of Sinners when they become vampires and then they're all cool and nonchalant. I got that exact same vibe. They quickly infect anyone else around them with this kind of saliva-based transfer, and then suddenly they're licking donuts and creating petri dishes in order to spread whatever's going on. Carol and Helen decide to grab a drink. This seems to be a frequent occurrence given that she has an installed breathalyzer in the car. Normally, if you get in this kind of trouble for a DUR, you are technically on probation and probably shouldn't be drinking, but what do? They go and drink. as they go out for a little smoke break. You can actually see in the background TV of the bar that there's breaking news that something's going on. As they're talking, they see these planes in the sky flying in a very distinct pattern. Now, this was my understanding that they were able to move the virus from saliva based to in the air supply, which obviously has a lot greater danger and can spread way quicker. So I don't know if they were just chemtrailing the world to get it in the air supply, but very quickly everything snapped. And this is the big event where everyone around the world, except for 13 people, start convulsing for a good 20 minutes. They're in that weird, doing that weird Fenty lean for about 20 minutes. Just walk down the streets of San Francisco and you might unfortunately see the same thing. Now, the sequence of Carol trying to save Helen was so terrible and also believable. The way she gets her onto that signpost, tries to lift her into the bed of the truck, knowing how challenging it would be for a woman to lift the kind of dead body weight of a woman her same size. Right when she got in the car, I knew that breathalyzer wouldn't work. I spotted that little obstacle from a mile away, which is a friendly reminder, friends, do not drink and drive. Don't do it. It's not worth it. Call an Uber, call a Waymo. The whole thing is obviously giving the onset of the zombie apocalypse. The police car turned over, all the smoke and fire coming from the city of Albuquerque. We know things are not good. When she goes into the hospital, she finds that everyone is still doing the Fenty lean. Seeing the woman in the baby carriage, I'm really glad we didn't see a convulsing baby, but I was almost I thought maybe the baby would be okay. Maybe the baby wasn't affected, because there's definitely something going on with Carol that makes her not affected, which we'll talk about in a little bit. She tries to give her girlfriend CPR, but eventually she is gone. She gives her this one weird little smile, which is clearly from the we and not even Helen. And everyone wakes back up again and says in a very creepy unison, "We just want to help Carol." The scene of her driving away from the hospital felt so long and scary, with this kind of new reality, people starting to clean up the mess, help each other out. She doesn't know what's wrong, but she knows something is very, very, very wrong. And I think this is one of the reasons why this show is so excellent. Of course, very rightly so, she's expecting everyone to attack and kill her, being this odd one out, and is super thrown off by everyone being so seemingly nice and friendly and helpful. Now, I know Miss Girl is under some stress, but why on earth is she trying to open a wooden door with a rock? Luckily, her creepy child neighbors come around and remind her about a time she left a key under the planter nearby because she had previously forgotten her key. These people are hooked up to some sort of collective hive mind with the specialized memory of individuals. So it's probably not these children that remembered that she left her key, but Helen, now that Helen was able to enter the hive mind before she passed. The scene when Carol calls the TV and talks to the undersecretary of agriculture because no one else was around who was also wearing a suit gave me, that movie called The Game with Michael Douglas. Such a good movie, so creepy. And then we finally get a bit of a straightforward explanation. They know she has questions. I love when shows just answer your questions so that they can move on to more intriguing mysteries. So the president explains that they received a radio signal from approximately 600 light years away, somewhere in deep space. They don't know how long it's been broadcasting. It could have been broadcasting for the entire existence of humans or long before. The signal came with 4 tones, which is the recipe for a nucleotide sequence. He says it's like a virus, but not a virus. It's this psychic glue that essentially turns every human into a hive mind. And the way he speaks about it, it's almost like that this sequence created something that already existed inside of us. Now, this has its base in certain theories, collective consciousness, the threads that kind of bind all of our consciousness together, but also quantum entanglement as well. It's this idea that 2 particles can be linked no matter the distance between them and affect each other over the span of great distances, which is something we see with this we, where they can become any person, adopt any skill set because they are all sharing one giant hive mind. She learns that there are 11 others like her in the world that eventually become 12, 13 people total in the entire world that this didn't happen to. That was the pilot episode, and holy crap, what a beautifully intriguing, bizarre. I love how it strikes the bizarre, the silly, and the terrifying all at the same time, and it does it so incredibly well. It's unsettling without being like a dark unsettling, the show Dark that I talk about a lot on here. That's just depressing depressing and dark. It rides this wave of quirkiness that Severance has, a really unique edge. I was hooked in right away. You know, I hit that next button immediately. So let's quickly talk about episode 2. Episode 2 is called Pirate Lady. Now, this episode begins with about 12 minutes of movement without any dialogue, nothing. And I think that does so well to set the stage of what this new reality is like. When this we aren't interacting with the kind of defectors, as I'll call them, the humans that are unaffected, they don't speak. Like the earth just became a lot more silent. So once you start to realize like nothing has happened, this woman is packing a body onto a truck, she grabs a scooter, she goes and drives a freaking plane from Morocco into Albuquerque by herself. I did wonder, maybe somebody can answer this. How does it change the fuel standards when there's only one person on the plane? Like big of a difference does that mean in fuel economy and what amount of fuel you need? These are just things that go through my head. The timeline now is going in reverse. Instead of counting down to the event, it's counting down time that happens after the event. Now I can't imagine how Carol feels. Not only is she like the loneliest woman on earth, she just lost the person she loved. She doesn't really have any good explanation for what's going on. It probably feels like a horrible dream. I would be drinking entire glasses of whiskey too. So anyway, we learn that this woman, Joja is her name, comes to visit Carol in Albuquerque. She drives a plane to get there. She stops by for a makeover. And at first I thought she was meant to be someone who Carol found attractive. I'm like, did you dress her up to look like Helen? But then we learn that she actually is meant to look like the female version of this Raban character in her most recent book. Now, the only people who knew that Carol had originally thought to make Raban a woman rather than a man was Helen, which freaks her out because it's further proof that Helen joined this hive mind before she unfortunately passed. Now, one interesting thing, what timeline are we in here? Joja's clothes do not look 2025. They're giving me 2016. Anyway, Carol asks a very important question, which is, do you hope to make me join you? And Joja says that we're months away from being able to figure that out. It's very clear though that they've advanced quite quickly. Well, 14 months total, but that went from being able to synthesize this nucleotide sequence, put it in animals, transfer it from animals into humans through blood, and then human to human through saliva, and then humans to the world through the air supply. So given how quickly they work, I think that Carol may be up against the clock for how soon they'd be able to turn her into one of us. Carol is overcome with rage, very understandable. She starts yelling and cursing at Joja, who starts convulsing, and we learn that Carol in her ire has triggered another event. With these events, people are operating heavy machinery, they're flying planes, they're driving cars, and when they have no control over their motor function, people die in very large numbers. We learn later that the initial event killed about 10% of the population. When Carol crashes out, she goes on to kill an additional 11 million people. So the consequences are so severe. Carol asks some important questions like, are the people operating the space station of the same mind? What about people down in Antarctica on the polar ice caps? And this has been part of the plan the whole time. They reached those people in the remote places, but then when the military found out, they had to accelerate their timeline. Now, we know that this group is very opposed to violence. They don't harm, but I do wonder once they had to accelerate their timeline if they did have to break some rules. After Carol finds out about the other people who have been unaffected by this phenomenon, she, of course, wants to meet them. So she rounds up anyone who speaks English as either a first or second language, and they go and meet in Bilbao, all seemingly getting their own ride. Miss Carol doesn't even go in business class, girl. Like, you've been through a lot. Treat yourself to the lie down seat. She just wants to be very angry, even though it's justified. But come on, why do you have to sit on the worst seat? Now, I found the meetup to be so fascinating because I just thought everyone would come together, they'd be of the same mind, they would feel the same way, and literally that doesn't happen at all. And the immediate distinction with everyone that comes, except for one other person, who we'll talk about in a second, comes with their family. And unfortunately, because Carol lost seemingly the closest person to her, she's a little more rogue and wild. And it makes me wonder that if Helen had survived this incident, if Carol would be showing up in a completely different way. It's hard to look at this hive mind, the we, the us, as evil when that evil is taking the form of your child, even if your child knows how to give a pelvic exam. Of course, some douche requests Air Force One. And for the first time, I was very in tune with the possibilities of being in this position. We see such a dichotomy. Carol thinks she's in the worst position. This is the worst thing to ever happen. This man, Kumba, is flying on the president's airplane with a harem of beautiful women, clearly doing whatever he wants with them and to them, and they are enjoying it. The middle group wants to join the hive mind to be with their family. Kumba wants to exploit the situation and be king of the world. Carol wants to rip it all to shreds to try to go back to the way things were. And I absolutely love this show because it got me thinking what I would do if I was one of the unaffected. Just like what I love about Severance, it raises really good questions. Like, would I want to be severed? Would I want to be one of the unaffected? What would I do? I can get these 6-course meals. And, at first I thought that the we, the us, the group was carrying on with their mission, but it seems so weird to see them serving the unaffected, the defective people. And you see how a man with no morals and a huge imagination like Kumba can really get the best of the world in this situation. We do learn one very important thing about the us is that they don't kill, they don't harm. When Kumba wants lobster, they cannot bring him any lobster. They can only use meat that has already been killed. They can't harm. And this makes me wonder how long until the food supply runs out, and do the us people have to eat as well? I guess the whole world will become vegetarian. Now, Carol is doing her best, even as she's downing wine to convince people why they're traitors unless they join her, even though she really has no plan. And unfortunately, her reasoning for joining them just isn't convincing, right? If I were these people, I don't know if I would be jumping on her team. She doesn't come across as a very likable person, and it seems like the other people feel very differently about the situation. Some, like Kumba, think it's amazing, and some are trying to make the best out of the situation, even hoping to one day join their family members within this hive mind. One important distinction is that Carol doesn't ask how it feels. How does it feel to be these people? Now, we end this episode with another Carol freakout. This is very dangerous. She's very well aware of how this will affect people around the world, how many people she will kill. She feels very torn up about it because she cannot lose her temper again, but she's in a very precarious and highly emotionally charged environment. All the other people went away with their families. It's now down to Kumba and Carol, and we learn that Kumba wants Joja to come with him to Vegas because he feels the connection with her. Joja says that all affection is welcome, which is very unsettling and creepy and confusing. Joja does not want to choose because it will hurt one of their feelings, so that they have to work it out themselves. We end this episode with Carol on the plane, seemingly have given up, saying, Joja, you can go with this creep if you want. Now, as they're all boarding Air Force One once more, Joja stops and gives her this longing look, and we don't know what it is that makes Carol spring up. Maybe it's the look, maybe it's something else, but she springs out of her seat. She goes and stands in front of Air Force One and tells them to stop. Now, this is so fascinating because is Joja's look of longing, does she know that Carol is looking? Is this a manipulative action to bring Carol on board with them? Or is Joja breaking out of the mold, cracking a little crack in the hive mind because Joja would really prefer to be with Carol rather than creepy Kumba? You guys tell me what you thought of it. Now, I think that we're going to continue to learn a little bit about the rules and parameters around the we, around the pluribus, the many, so that we could see potentially how to reverse or conquer, or if more people will join Carol's side. That is it. That is episode 2. Obviously, we have huge questions remaining, such as why Carol? Why is she unaffected? What does she have in common with the other people unaffected? Is it as simple as some biological immunity? Is it something different? And then where did this come from? And what were the intentions? Is there just this happy place full of hippies across the universe who have been looking at Earthlings like, wow, those guys are miserable. miserable. We need to give them a little bit of this Brave New World type of Soma potion to make them happy. Let me know what you're thinking in the comments, and I'll see you very soon. I'd like to take a moment to shout out my Patreon VIP Waffle Party members. Thank you so much to Jim Rodney, Dolores Abernathy, Matt Winbury, Chris Bazeski, Marlon Yamzon, Daniel Ariano, and Bo Dierker. And thank you to all of my other paid Patreon supporters. Head over there for more discussion and some exclusive material. Stay safe out there, guys. Let me know if you'd like to join the many or what you would do if you were in Kumba's and Carol's position. I'll see you next time. Bye.